Hey y'all, this lesson is on effective annual yield and inflation. Effective annual yield is an actual percentage that you're getting at the end of your deposit or your loan. So you have a nominal rate, which is the rate that's advertised. And then your effective annual yield is the actual yield on that rate that you're getting, depending on the compounding periods and percentage. Your nominal rate is going to be more of a simple interest rate, and your effective annual yield rate is going to be compounding. And when you use this formula, it's going to give you a more accurate representation of what that yield is. So when shopping for loans or savings opportunities, borrowers should shop around for loans, the lowest yield available, but a depositor, so for savings account, you should look for the highest yield possible. And this formula to figure out what you're actually getting is Y for yield equals 1 plus R over N raised to the N, and then minus 1 is outside that exponent. You don't want to put it up in the exponent. So you can kind of see that obviously this is going to represent that interest being added on to the loan or the deposit. And then you might be wondering, what is that minus 1? Like, why is that there? If there's a 1 plus, then why are we minusing 1? Well, this is part of an exponent, so we're not like necessarily directly undoing, but this minus 1 is representing that principal amount that we either took the loan out on or deposited at the beginning. So we're subtracting that out to figure out what the actual interest is. So we're going to use the formula here to compare some interest rates on these 3 loans. So I have 3 different scenarios from different banks or credit unions or whatever, and we're comparing these. We're shopping around to figure out which one is the best. Andy wants to deposit, so we're looking for the actual highest effective rate. What's it called? Effective annual yield, sorry. And he's deposited $3,500 into the savings account and is comparing these 3 financial institutions. So we're going to use the formula to actually figure out the yield on these. Now, this first one says that the rate is 2.09% compounded monthly. So if we plug it into our formula, we have 1 plus the rate as a percent as a decimal over N, which is monthly, raised to the N minus 1. And we're going to figure out about what that is. We can round a little bit. So let's pull up our calculator and let's make sure we type this in correctly. We've got, I'm going to put in parentheses, 1 plus R over N raised to the 12th, and then I'm going to hit over on my calculator to get out of that exponent, minus 1. And we get, if we change that back to percent, we get about 2.11%. Now the next one, it says 2.1% annual yield. So they are giving us the actual number we're looking for. We don't need to do the formula on this one. That is as is. And then the last one is 2.06 compounded daily. So plug this into the formula. You figure it out on your own. Come back and check your work. Okay, you should have gotten 2.08% rounded, so I did the little squiggly. If we're comparing the 3 rates, the annual yields, then really it's only down to 2 options because that one's obviously lower. So if we're comparing these 2 options, This will be a 0 right here. So if we're comparing 0 to 1, 1 is higher. So the best choice for this deposit is BFF, credit union. Now, if we were looking for a loan, we would want the lowest annual yield because we want to pay back the least amount as possible. Obviously, this formula is a little bit tedious, especially to type in. So you can do this in your calculator a little bit faster. We're going to go to our finance app. Pull up this calculator. Going to go to apps, finance. And then I want to go down to EFF. So I'm looking for EFF. Mine's down there at C. And then it's telling me I need to put in the rate, the nominal rate, which was the rate that was given to me, and the compounding period. So R and N, which is what we've already been doing. So we can do that with BFF. We're going to do 2.09, comma, 12. Dun, 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 2.11. So that's a little bit faster, a little bit less difficult to type in. So I would recommend doing that. And then if you want to do the same thing for that last one, I'm going to do second enter to pull up my previous entry. It was 2.06 for 365. There you go. Easy peasy. So that's EFF in the finance app. And then I have the steps here. So you can see exactly what I typed in. And then we're going to talk about inflation. Inflation. Basically, inflation, there's a lot to say about inflation, but basically what it means is that the value of the dollar, a US currency, is decreasing. And so what you're going to see here in inflation is your money is worth less, so you cannot buy as much, which makes everything feel like it's really, really expensive because the dollar isn't worth much. Typically what happens here is they're printing too much money. There's too much of the money, so it decreases the value, which makes everything really, really expensive. No fun. The consumer price index is where they basically have like a guide that shows the value of common items that you live off of. So like groceries, gas, utilities, stuff like that. And this is something that you can Google. It's a common thing to Google. So you can look that up and kind of compare the years and look at where we're at now. And then deflation is where things get a little bit cheaper. So the value of the dollar increases and things get cheaper. And then lastly, an economic slowdown is referred to as a recession. And we've seen a few of these. So 2008 would have been a recession. So anyway, that's all I have for this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, let me know. I'd be happy to help.